Pleasant day, everyone. My name is Benjamin Rabanyo. I'm currently 25 years old. I'm also half Filipino, half Malaysian.
I'm Juan Melad. Right now I'm 23 years old. I'm half Taiwanese and half Filipino. And right now I'm working in game design.
Hi, my name is Tamay Anati Granada. I am 22 years old. Currently, I'm third year college at Technological Institute of the Philippines, and I am half Filipino and half Japanese.
Our first question, can you tell me a little bit about your family background and different cultures or nationalities in your family?
For starters, my mother came from Malaysia, from the upper region, and their family is mostly among the Chinese Malaysian community. So my mother grew up in a Chinese community, so often they have really nice celebration, especially during the Chinese New Year or other Chinese festivals. So we would also play mahjong from time to time. And from my father's side, Filipino, I grew up in the Filipino community, among others. And most of the traditions are basically the same.
My family background. Actually, my father is Filipino and my mother is Japanese. And yeah, in our family, it's more like a mix of Japanese and Filipino culture. However, it's like, the Filipino culture is what you could see the most in our family, I would say so.
So yeah, my mother's side is Taiwanese. She's pure Taiwanese, and my father's side is, of course, pure Filipino. And me, as I live here in the Philippines, I'm more taught with Filipino culture. I use more Tagalog, of course. But when talking to my mother, as much as possible, I talk to her in English. But right now, as my age right now is how long my mother lived here in the Philippines. So she can understand Tagalog even if I straight talk to her in Tagalog. But at the same time, she still answers back in English. When I was still a baby or, during my toddler years, actually she talked to me in Chinese. And I was answering her also in Chinese. So, when you're a child, you can learn languages a lot better. I think that's the reason my Chinese is better than all of my brothers. I have brother Ju2 and Ju3. I'm Juan. And I'm more in line with Filipino culture, but with the Chinese culture, or in the Taiwanese culture, you can really feel it once we go to Taiwan.
What languages do you speak at home and how does that make you feel?
In our household, actually, we speak Filipino and mostly English the most. It's even my mother, when my mother is in the Philippines, we speak in English for some reason. Yeah, I think it's also a way for her to practice. That's why mostly in our family, we speak English with her and Filipino with our extended relatives as well.
So yeah, we talk in Tagalog and in English, very rarely in Chinese. My mother still uses Chinese for us very rarely also, but we do use a little, some vocabularies in Chinese, the very, very simple ones. We only use a little Chinese vocabulary, but when I communicate with my mother, it's mainly English. And yeah, for my father, my brothers, we all speak in Tagalog. But my little brother Ju3 is mostly speaking English right now because I think that's the culture today here in the Philippines. You must speak in English even in school, and all of the media he is always consuming is also in English. So it kind of got taught to him, something like that.
We are currently speaking English mainly from our day-to-day communications, especially. Even though our mother can understand Tagalog, she prefers to speak in English. And it's exciting because every day you can always practice your English, and I don't feel shy to speak in English.
Third question, what are some of your favorite cultural traditions or celebrations that you participate in with your family?
So mainly still more in line with Filipino culture. But we still have slight bit Chinese of cultures that we follow. Something like, for example, feng shui, something like that. The arrangement of the furniture, which gives good luck in Chinese.
I guess for Philippine culture, tradition, Philippine culture like to celebrate a lot, especially during the birthdays, Christmas parties. That's why I think that is the most enjoyable thing about the Filipino culture. While also in Japanese culture, I get to experience Japanese culture mostly when I was in Japan. When me and my mother, when I was a child, when me and my mother went to what we call like hanami, it's like flower viewing, sakura cherry blossom, like that. And I think
Wow.
that's the what I enjoy the most in both cultures. Yeah.
Then for our next question, can you share a special family recipe or dish that comes from one of your cultural background?
Family recipe. I'm not sure if it's a family recipe, but my mother used to cook. It's a Japanese dish. It's called zenzai. It's a sweet red bean soup with mochi. So we usually eat it during rainy seasons when we feel like to, or sometimes in New Year's, like New Year times. Even my mother is not in Philippines. We also make it at home. Yeah.
For my mother's side, I really like char kway teow. It's a stir-fried noodle. It's also made of flat noodles and it's really good. From my father's side, I really like adobo.
Okay, for our fifth question, have you ever had a chance to visit the countries or regions your family's cultures come from? What was the experience like?
Actually, yeah, we still, I think we only, in my whole 23 years living here, I only went to Taiwan once, and we only went there for like 2 weeks, 1 month around those time. But even with that 1 month, when we were in the Philippines, of course, the person who's living here is basically in charge, which is my father. So when we went there, so it's my mother is the one in charge now, which is a fresh feeling that you can see the mother being the boss now. But yeah, there's a lot of not only the culture, the environment itself is very different in Taiwan. And I also want to actually share, this is much fresh, because I think we went to Taiwan in 2016. So how many years is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So it's really hard to explain other than, language, food, different currencies, the different, landmarks there in Taiwan. And the cultures also like, there are different kinds of religions there. How do you pray when you start eating, things like that. But I also want to share this much recent, which is my family in Thailand. So basically my spouse lives in Thailand, so I visit there more frequently than Taiwan. And my spouse's parents is very welcoming to me, so I learned a lot there really. Their language, how they, the mannerisms that must be done during dinner. For example, for us, when we sneeze, we're still very proper. There's still an etiquette. Yeah, we still do proper etiquette where we sneeze, we cover ourselves, and we say "excuse me." But for them, that's also not good, actually. Yeah. So you really need to hide it as much as possible. Don't even make a sound, something like that. So, yeah, that's what I learned from them, before, because for them, they just, understood. But, after talking a lot, I learned that actually it's not okay for them, Simple things like this that we learn. And yeah, it's different cultures that's okay for us, but actually it's not okay for them, But as I live there, I learned a lot more the lifestyles, what's good and what's not good, even though for us it's like pretty normal. So it really broadens our horizons when you meet with a lot of people from different cultures, and a lot of people from different countries, basically.
Yes, I have visited also Japan. Actually, recently also I went there for some reasons. Yeah, and the experience was nice, especially for me because all my life, I guess, since childhood, I have been in Philippines. I grew up in the Philippines. Then sometimes lang we go to Japan. But then if the time when I was able to go to Japan and able to experience like different culture, that like sometimes we get to see the festivals there. I think that's a very nice experience for me because I get to know more about my mother's culture. Yeah.
Do you have any siblings or relatives who are also from multicultural backgrounds? So how do you all celebrate your diverse heritage together?
We haven't yet the opportunity to really have a big family reunion, but from my brother's side, he's married to a Japanese. So maybe eventually when we have a big grand reunion. And then also my sister, she's married to a Singaporean. Though they may have shared similar cultures, but I'm sure there's a difference. And to me, I'm married to Korean Japanese, so maybe in the future we will see an update.
At least for my mother's side, yeah, I don't have only her brother is the one left here in the physical world. So, and I'm not really close to him, so I couldn't really mingle much with the Chinese culture. But yeah, also I guess for my other sisters, my spouse's sister, I mingle a lot with them, and yeah, they really teach me a lot in terms of their language. They have this letter that I struggle with. It's like at the middle of K and C, so it's hard for me to pronounce. But for them, it's like C and then K, and then there's a sound in the middle that I really struggle to pronounce. But for them, it's so natural to pronounce it to them. They grew up with this language, right? So. But yeah, I tried my best. I repeat it more than 10 times already, and I cannot pronounce it properly. And even when I said it correct, and then I try to repeat it, I can't. Like, oh yeah, they said, oh yeah, that's right. Then when I repeat it, no, that's wrong. But it's those kinds of activities or cultural in terms of language that I appreciate also.
Yes, I have relatives also from multicultural background. Some were like half Filipino, half Korean, and half like American, or Canadian, and Filipino. But then when we celebrate, it's the Filipino culture talaga is the most how we come together is through the Filipino culture. It's like when we gather all together, we have this. We really practice the Filipino culture. We just like talk with our relatives, get to kamustahan, and also like just have a big celebration with the whole family. Like mostly, I think it's during the Christmas season. That's the biggest celebration I guess we have in our family. We get to gather once again with the whole family members. Sometimes we also invite our extended relatives, and in that way, like also like our Filipino, my father, my Filipino parents, or my uncles, like that, they just, how to say, kamustahan, they really talk a lot about how have they been recently. That's what I have noticed, like, they like to gather and to talk about life and to get to know if each of their family members are doing well.
Are there any customs or practices from your family's cultures that you find particularly interesting or fun?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily fun, but because I grew up in a Filipino community, I learned to do mano po. Compared to other nationalities, I don't think they have that kind of sign of respect to the elderly. Though, yeah, in Chinese, yeah, when eating, if you're eating loud, it means you're enjoying the meal, something like that.
Not really a culture, but a family activity, we have this rule that whenever we eat, it must be always together, especially during dinner. It's the only time we can like talk to each other, know what's happening within us. And there's also what we're doing, hunduke, wherein every night we must gather and read the divine principle, or basically it's like our Bible, and we share what we learned there, and also sometimes we connect this to what's happening in our life. So we open up with each other. That's what makes us close. There's a lot of families that struggle to even open up to each other, know what's happening. Sometimes they hide it, even though they're literally just beside each other, but they still don't understand what's happening because they're not talking, they're not communicating. So this is what we do for us to be able to open up to each other, and for us to have a very open family, and that we're basically very, very close because of this. We know what's happening with each other, and we help each other if there's problems. So things like that.
Have you ever experienced any challenges or misunderstandings related to your multicultural background, and how did you handle them?
Oh, there were a lot, especially like how my mother and father usually interact. They're like oil and water. But even then, it's very nice because you don't only get to see one side, you also get to see the other side, and it always every day lets you consider what is the better way to do things. Like, even though mostly Filipinos, we always have this manana habit, but because my mother says, when you do this, you cannot do this mamaya na, you have to do it immediately. So from there, I learned to balance. Of course, since I'm Filipino, I prefer to do the mamaya na, but if I have to do something, I really do it immediately.
Definitely, there's a lot of problems like that. The language barrier already. Sometimes when I talk to my mother, I need to explain it to her 3 times, something like that. But as long as we're prepared to listen, we're prepared to understand, it's not a problem really. There's a misunderstanding that misunderstandings are unavoidable, but as long as you love each other, as long as you understand each other, it won't turn bitter, something like that. And even though there are things that we disagree upon, we still talk about it. At least talk about it. Find who must be what must be prioritized. And if it's really hard for one to decide, find a middle point that everybody can agree upon. So it's those things. Communication.
Misunderstanding. Sometimes, right, when when they knew that I am half Filipino or half Japanese, sometimes they base it with my appearance. So they ask me. Oftentimes, I guess, I heard a question a lot, is your parents still together? For some reason, that's what I always hear when I was here in Philippines. Like, yeah, I guess they have sometimes a misconception about multicultural families. But then, yeah, for me, to clear up those misunderstandings, I always explain that, yes, they're still strong together like that. And I'm actually living with both cultures of my family. So I guess it's also nice for when people tend to have little misunderstanding and they ask me, and I was able to somehow clear up so that, not norm, but it's the frequent misunderstanding that people have between multicultural families could be somehow cleared. Yeah.
So, what do you enjoy most about being part of a multicultural family?
Oh, it's being able to visit other countries a lot easier. For example, I have a Taiwanese passport because my mother gave us, or when we went to Taiwan, we went there to create our IDs and made our passport. So it's easy access to other countries, for example. But other than that, really knowing, being able to have this knowledge of a lot of different cultures that are happening, a lot of different activities that happen is pretty fun actually. It also makes you more wiser, whenever when you treat new cultures, it makes you more sensitive to their proper etiquette, and basically it makes you wiser.
I guess I enjoyed the most is being able to experience both cultures, because both cultures are very unique and they have their own beauty. And Filipino culture, I get to enjoy a lot, not party a lot, but to feel that so much positivity. And in Japanese culture as well, I was able to how Japanese people live their lives, especially I know the beauty of how they discipline themselves, how they look into life like that. It's very mind-opening. So when I get to understand both culture and somehow get the beauty or get the good things in both cultures, and I try to put it into my life, I think it's very nice.
Yeah, it's the multiple experiences you can have, because there's never a dull day. And especially if you are, besides in a multicultural family, you are part of a multicultural community, then you get to learn more about others, especially if you mingle with other foreigners. You don't only meet them, but you live with them. It's a very wonderful experience.
So, is there anything you'd like to share about your multicultural identity that makes you unique or proud?
So, I guess being able to tell to other people that you're half like this or half like that is already interesting. It makes you interesting already. For example, when I was still a student, and whenever I introduce to people, oh, I am half Taiwanese, they will ask me, oh, can you speak Chinese or something like that, in which I just I memorized a speech when I was grade 6 because it was graduation. So I had to make a speech in Chinese in front of my class, and I still remember it until today. I can tell it to you, but it's a little embarrassing. But yeah, I just show them that I can do another language, and in different cultures, for example, okay, if you're half Korean, some people that are interested in like K-pop, for example, or K-drama, they would ask you, oh, so can you understand watch those without the English subtitle? Things like that. It's pretty fun to talk about those. It makes you basically unique to other people that are pure. But at the same time, being able to be part of another family, be able to if you go to your Filipino family, there's this culture that you follow, and being in the Taiwanese family, there's also this culture that you follow. When you mix those two together, so it's like this is basically us right now, the person so we know the Filipino culture, we know the Chinese culture, which in turn makes us at least a little more unique. And then right now I'm adding another Thailand culture to my sphere. So it's with those getting mixed, there's a lot of cultures that I learned, and a lot of cultures that I still do. Even from them, I still do here in the Philippines. That basically I'm getting influence from their culture, and other people can really see that there's a little different from me because of that.
For me, because I grew up in the Philippines a lot, and I guess the ingrained culture in me is mostly Filipino culture, though there's a hint of Japanese culture. Because for me, I'm still trying to get to know more about the Japanese culture, especially the language as well. What's unique about it is because I try to apply everything, even though I'm in the Philippines. I try to incorporate some behaviors that I grew up with my mother, like Japanese behaviors, like how we need to be disciplined, like that. So I think it's a good thing, actually. The unique thing is like you could have both culture ingrained in your personality, in your behavior, in your attitude. Yeah.
I am happy that I came from a multicultural family because I am not limited to what is the norm, especially like among Filipinos. It is very common that they just laze around, or they eat multiple times a day. But I think for me, I consider it unhealthy. But even though I do it, but still, it's a great experience because you can really widen your horizons, especially if you start to live in another country. You can see, wow, Filipinos really deserve better.
So our next question, in your perspective, what significant influence do multicultural families have on society?
It's really about being interconnected, being open to one another, and really widening your horizons. Because if you are only stuck in the Filipino mindset, and then you do not learn from other cultural environments, I think we really cannot develop as a whole. We may keep the homogeneity, but ultimately, if we do not interact with others, I think it will be catastrophic in the future.
Actually, I think they have a very big role in our society, especially oftentimes, right, when some traditional families like Filipino, they like only their own blood. But then I think multicultural families are the one who could expand the borders or the horizon of a lot of people, especially when we get to know each other's culture, we get to understand more people more. So it's like embracing, being more understanding, being more open on how we see people, not just like looking at the Filipino as a Filipino, but then looking at them as a person, and as well as people from other nationality.
If you could give advice to other kids who are part of multicultural families, what would you tell them?
Accept their cultural or their multicultural self. So be able to explore more of your multicultural heritage. Be able to express this also in your current self. You yourself being a multicultural person makes you a unique person, makes you stand out basically, and use this to be able to have an edge, especially in the society. You know more than others, so use this. Be able to basically be confident on yourself, and spread the culture. When this culture is spread, it makes our world a better place. We become more understanding with each other. We become more understanding with other people, especially people that are not within your environment. You get to know more, and people say that when you travel, you become wiser because you meet a lot of people. You learn more about their culture, and you accept their culture. Or you do this culture, you understand why you do all of this, why they do this, and with that, you treat other people better, basically.
Yes, be proud of your heritage, be proud of your nationalities, and try to explore more, especially if you know that you're more into the Filipino culture, but then have the, initiative, or try to explore more also the other culture that your parents have, because it's more like you will be getting to know more about your parents' culture as well. So, and also it also creates, it broadens your perspective in life as well. If you get to know more about your own mixed heritage or multicultural background, yeah.
Embrace your variety. Do not be ashamed that you are born from a multicultural family. Others may make fun of you, but ultimately you have the upper hand in terms of experience. You know something that they will never know.